A single lamp lights up the night, a few words warm the heart. Here there is no noise, only the whispers of life and a resting place for the soul. Welcome to HL Whispers. Have you ever met someone like this? They smile warmly at you, but you inexplicably feel a chill inside. Their lips curve upward, but their eyes remain cold, carrying an odd sense of strangeness. Often, the uneasiness we feel is not an illusion, because a person's true nature is often written on their face. Words can be disguised, but eyes and expressions can never truly deceive anyone. In today's video, let's talk about 4 warning signals you can read from a person's face. The corners of the mouth, the eyes, the space between the eyebrows, the wrinkles, and even the direction of their expressions. All hide details we often overlook. If you find this content helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. I will continue to accompany you with more heartwarming and practical stories. The first signal, a smile on the lips, but not in the eyes. This is the classic case of inconsistent inside and out. Emily once experienced this. A couple moved into her neighborhood. On the surface, they seemed very warm, especially the wife, who always greeted everyone with a smile. Yet every time Emily made eye contact with her, she felt a strange, unexplainable sense of unease. That smile carried no warmth in the eyes, only a chilling coldness. 2 months later, gossip among the neighbors revealed the truth. That family had previously been involved in scams and troubles elsewhere, before quietly disappearing. It was then that Emily realized the cold gaze she had sensed was actually a glimpse of their true nature. A similar experience happened to Sarah. She met a new acquaintance at the community center, and at first the person seemed friendly and trustworthy. But over time she discovered that this friend often gossiped behind people's backs. The corners of the mouth carried a smile, but the eyes remained cold and indifferent. No matter how enthusiastic the surface appeared, it could not conceal the inner indifference and hypocrisy. One time, Sarah shared some homemade dishes with her. That person smiled and thanked her repeatedly in front of others. But later, Sarah overheard her whispering to someone else, "Oh dear, she's giving me food again. Such a bother." Why is it that a person's true heart is often revealed through their eyes? The reason is simple. The mouth can pretend, but the eyes never lie. The psychologist Paul Ekman once conducted such an experiment. He first showed participants pleasant pictures and then immediately followed with unpleasant images. At that moment, many people forced a smile and said, "It's fine," but in an instant their eyes froze. Facial muscles tightened, and pupils trembled rapidly. In less than 0.2 seconds, their genuine disgust and displeasure involuntarily leaked onto their face. This is what Paul Ekman described as the power of micro-expressions. Words can be disguised, but the eyes are always the first to betray emotion. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once said, "False words can be invented, but the eyes instinctively reveal the truth." So remember, the corners of the mouth can be raised into a smile at will, but if there is no sincerity in the eyes, that smile will never feel warm. A person's true nature is often revealed first through their eyes. If those eyes radiate coldness, then the smile may be fake, and it may even mean that person is ready to use you. The second signal, people who are always wearing a stern face even before they speak. Their eyes are already sharp, their lips tightly pressed together, and their whole face seems to declare, "Don't bother me, I'm annoyed right now." Have you ever encountered such a face? Even if they say nothing, just standing nearby makes you feel suffocated. When talking with them, you are always cautious, worried that one wrong word will set them off. They are overly sensitive to details and often explode suddenly over the smallest matters. Professor Brad Bushman from Ohio State University has studied this type of person, those with what is called anger control disorder. These individuals cannot suppress their emotions and often lose reason. What's shocking is this: even before they truly erupt in anger, their face speaks for them. Bushman's research found that such people rarely show much variety in expression. Their default facial state already carries hostility. Their brows are habitually furrowed, and the corners of their mouth naturally pulled downward. Even the slightest trigger can cause their facial muscles to contract instantly. In other words, they attack with their face first. Before saying a word, their expression has already made others nervous, defensive, and even emotionally hurt. Schopenhauer once said, "Anger is the emotion born to fill the void where reason is absent." When a person's face is filled with rage, there is little reason left within their heart. Think about it. Have you ever spent long periods of time beside such a face? No words were spoken, yet instinctively you became cautious, feeling as though you had done something wrong, and even afraid to breathe too loudly. That is the moment when anger spreads outward through the face. Even without speaking, they make others feel afraid. Even without smiling, they make others feel annoyed. Their very presence alone becomes a kind of oppression. Such expressions are not just ordinary facial features. They are weapons used to suppress others. Remember, never allow such people to remain in your life for too long, because one day that anger will inevitably turn toward you. The third signal, people whose eyes are constantly shifting. Such individuals are often scheming in their hearts. They avoid direct eye contact, and when speaking, their eyes dart back and forth restlessly, revealing unease. This is not simple nervousness. It is the reflection of inner calculation. In their minds, questions spin constantly. What use is what this person is telling me? Will their words leave evidence against me? How can I respond in a way that benefits me most? For them, conversations are not about sincerity or connection, but about gains and losses. Lisa, a resident of Langfang, Hebei, had such an experience at a neighborhood gathering. At first, she thought this neighbor was very kind. They often shared homemade dishes and seemed warm in conversation. But whenever the talk turned deeper, that person would immediately avert their gaze or change the subject. Later, when Lisa fell ill and was hospitalized, that seemingly friendly neighbor never once came to visit. Instead, at another gathering, she coldly remarked, "Oh well, who can care about so many things? Everyone has their own problems. She should handle it herself." Psychology also confirms this. A study from Harvard University found that when listening, those who truly empathize often gaze steadily at the speaker, their eyes calm and focused. But those who are calculating or uninterested, their eyes dart quickly from side to side, avoiding contact, because their brain is busy filtering information and weighing personal advantage. In other words, the eyes betray the inner calculation even before words are spoken. Such people will never speak rudely. On the contrary, they often appear polite and cautious. But their eyes are restless, flickering with unease. It is the face of someone who is always calculating. The philosopher Pascal once said, "The eyes are the windows of the soul. The calculations of the heart first reveal themselves in the gaze." Have you ever met such a person? Their words sound pleasant, yet you never feel you can truly open your heart to them. They seem to listen, but in reality, they are only weighing pros and cons. That uneasy feeling is never an illusion, because their eyes are already picking and choosing who can bring them the greatest benefit. In Kaohsiung, Taiwan, a woman in her 60s named Mary joined a hiking association activity through a friend's introduction. At first, she thought one of the men there was simply quiet and reserved. But soon she realized something was off. When someone fell, he showed no concern. When he heard another person was injured, he had no reaction at all, only nodded blankly, his face expressionless. Even when Mary spoke tearfully about her family's illness, his response was the same, silently chewing on his bread, without a word, his expression unchanged, his eyes never meeting hers. This is the typical face of someone with low empathy, whether joy, sadness, anger, or laughter. Their face shows no emotional ripple. Why is this? Psychologist Simon Barron, Cohen pointed out that such people often lack what is called a theory of mind, the ability to understand and feel others' emotions. It's not that they refuse to empathize, they simply cannot feel it at all. So when confronted with the pain of others, they remain cold and indifferent, their expressions flat, often leaving others feeling awkward or isolated. The philosopher Karl Jaspers once said, "A person who cannot let emotions appear on the face cannot keep relationships by their side." Indeed, when we meet someone whose face never reflects any emotional flow, they are destined to be cut off from the warmth of human connection. Even if their words are gentle and their actions harmless, there will always be a layer of distance. Because their face cannot resonate with your emotions, such a face should never stay close to you for long. Your sincerity in their eyes may be nothing more than noise. The fourth signal, people whose gaze is overly intense, staring at you too hard. Such people often have a strong desire for control. Lone Listener once said, "Every time he looked at me, I was left speechless, as if every word I said was being dissected under a magnifying glass." Have you ever had a similar experience? In normal conversation, language should be the bridge. But instead, without a single word, they lock their gaze onto you, making your heart race, leaving you afraid to look up, and even doubting whether you've already said something wrong. This is no coincidence. It is their nature, their desire to dominate, revealed in that very stare. Harvard psychologist Alan Pease once conducted a famous experiment. He divided participants into two groups. One group was asked to maintain eye contact with the other for no more than 3 seconds, while the other group had to hold their gaze for at least 10 seconds. The results were shocking. Among those who were stared at for more than 10 seconds, 87% reported, "I felt belittled, as if I were being tested or even controlled." In just a brief exchange of eyes, a gaze can become a tool of power. Think about it. Have you ever met someone like this? Their words are polite, their manners courteous, yet their eyes press down on you, making you deeply uncomfortable. This is the hallmark of those who manipulate with their gaze. The philosopher Michel Foucault once said, "The gaze itself is a form of surveillance and power. Before language, what dominates first is the eyes at first." Such people may seem intelligent and serious, but, over time, you begin to feel increasingly exhausted. They always want to firmly control the conversation, ignoring your feelings and focusing only on their own logic. In their presence, your emotions gradually shrink. Your words lose their strength, and eventually only silence remains. If facial expressions are weapons, then the eyes are the crosshairs of those weapons. When you realize that a gaze is suffocating you, twisting your thoughts, it is not just discomfort. It is a dangerous signal, remember. You must distance yourself in time, because such a gaze will eventually devour your emotions. Then, how can we recognize kindness on a person's face? The face is the landscape drawn by the soul. The years they have lived, the relationships they've built, the emotions they've felt, all are etched onto their features. A face that carries warmth instead of suspicion, serenity instead of oppression, always stands out first. A face with naturally upturned lips, those whose lips gently curve upward, are often kind-hearted. Even in silence, just sitting beside them makes others feel warm and at ease. Harvard psychologist Dr. Nancy Ettlinger observed a group of colleagues over 6 months. Her findings were clear. Those who worked alongside people with this kind of face felt less stress, less anxiety, and more often experienced respect. Dr. Ettlinger called this phenomenon the silent soothing effect of emotion. In other words, even without saying a word, their mere presence makes others feel relaxed. Such a face comes from a nature willing to first trust and first understand others. That is why their tone, gestures, and very presence naturally radiate comfort and harmony. The German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once said, "A kind heart always shows first through expression, not through language." Psychologists also point out, the direction of the lips is the direction of the heart. A tiny expression may reveal an entire second, a face with crow's feet at the corners of the eyes. If the marks of life must leave traces on the face, the very first place they appear is at the eyes. Psychologist Paul Ekman, through his cross-cultural studies, found that only genuine smiles create wrinkles at the corners. A fake smile moves only the mouth. Found that only genuine smiles create wrinkles at the corners of the eyes. A fake smile moves only the mouth, but a true smile engages the muscles around the eyes as well. Those with deep wrinkles around the eyes are often people who truly smile often. They have smiled for others, and they have smiled even through sadness. The French philosopher Montaigne once said, "The face is the oldest diary of emotions." The emotions we repeat most, the expressions we wear most often, are etched deeply into our features, especially in older people. If their face is marked mainly by wrinkles at the corners of the eyes, this is not simply the trace of years, but the record of a life filled with kindness and warmth. Their words are measured, their hearts broad, and often a single smile from the eyes is enough to ease another's burden. Those wrinkles are not a burden to beauty, but the gentle imprint of a lifetime of love and care. Third, a forehead lined with fine creases, the mark of a true listener. Have you ever met such a person? When speaking with you, they slightly lower their head. Their brows gently furrow and fine lines ripple across their forehead. That small expression conveys, "Ah, this person is truly listening to me." The fine lines on the forehead are not from excessive worry, but from the countless times they have tried to understand and to feel the emotions of others. American clinical psychologist Dr. Susan Park conducted a study with 600 middle-aged and older adults, exploring the connection between facial wrinkles and interpersonal relationships. The results were striking. Those with more fine lines on the forehead scored over twice as high in empathy compared to others. The reason is clear. Such people often reveal understanding and resonance while listening. Their brows gently lift, their forehead creases unconsciously, and their emotions quietly etch themselves onto their faces. The philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau once said, "Human wisdom does not reside only in words. It also lingers in expressions, and expressions, in the end, give birth to trust." This means that the people who can truly build deep connections are not those who speak endlessly, but those who genuinely listen. We instinctively know this. When someone listens to you attentively, not with a vacant stare, but by subtly responding to your emotions, your heart begins to open up. So, the fine lines on the forehead are not merely traces of time. They are the soul's record of a lifetime spent trying to understand and feel others. If you meet such a person, cherish them, for they are the ones who will truly listen to your story until the very end. Fourth, a rounded nose tip and full nostrils, the mark of a kind-hearted person. Have you ever felt this way? When you see someone with a rounded nose tip and full nostrils, you somehow feel reassured, and conversations with them flow more easily. In the study of physiognomy, such noses are often called fortunate noses, commonly seen in people who are generous, kind, and considerate of others. They are rarely the ones who calculate every gain and loss. Instead, their thoughts often go like this: "It's fine, I'll contribute a little more. If others can't handle it, I'll take the responsibility." Even if they suffer a small loss, they would rather avoid conflict. Research also shows that people with sharp-pointed noses often appear distant, while those with rounded tips are far more likely to earn trust. Professor Alexander Todorov of Princeton University pointed out, when humans meet strangers for the first time, it takes only 0.1 seconds to decide whether the face looks trustworthy. And one of the key factors is precisely a soft, rounded, and reassuring facial contour. In psychology, there is also a concept known as the facial impression effect. Subconsciously, people tend to place more trust in the central features of the face, especially the nose. That is why those with rounded tips and full nostrils often win others' goodwill and trust without even realizing it. The philosopher Confucius once said, "Virtue shines through appearance, and appearance brings peace to others." Such a face doesn't need many words. It naturally warms the heart and inspires trust. Perhaps you also know someone like this. Just seeing their face makes you feel kindness and sincerity. That warmth is not a mask, but the truth written by years upon their features. Being with such a person often makes us want to become better ourselves. Their face is a blessing in itself, and to walk alongside them is an even greater fortune. Today sharing is not meant to teach us to judge others superficially, but to inspire reflection. What kind of face are we showing to the world? And with what kind of faces should we walk together so that life may be steadier and more at peace? Remember, a person's face is a silent autobiography. It holds the marks of years and the state of the heart, clearly revealing how one has lived and how one has treated others. So from today, learn to read a face, stay close to those whose presence brings you peace, and also strive to become that warm face in someone else's life. May your smile be the gentlest comfort in another's day. Every time you watch, it is a meeting of hearts. Perhaps your comment will light up someone's night. Perhaps your words will soothe another's worries. Thank you for being here today. If this message touched you, please share the warmth with more people so that love and understanding may continue to spread among us. And don't forget to subscribe and like. Making HL Whispers your safe harbor each day. May you find comfort and strength here, and may your smile brighten someone else's world. This is HL Whispers. See you next time.